All right, so many major new developments, new information tonight. Because of a mountain of irrefutable evidence, pressure is building at this hour for the Attorney General of the United States, Jeff Sessions, to now appoint a second special counsel. Now, Senators Chuck Grassley, Lindsey Graham, along with Senators John Cornyn and Thom Tillis, they are now joining the chorus that are demanding that Sessions now finally take action so real crimes that we know are committed can now be investigated. Take a look.
The FBI and the Department of Justice were corrupt, in my view, when it came to handling the email investigation of Clinton, and the entire FISA warrant application process was abused.
Chances that you get a special counsel in addition to what's already there?
I will be shocked if somebody doesn't see the inherent conflict in the Department of Justice regarding investigating itself. High probability.
I'm going to use as much leverage as I can, and I think I have a lot to get the job done.
And sources telling us tonight that there is a very high probability that Sessions, in fact, will act and that he will appoint a second special counsel. This will be a huge victory for all of you, the American people. It is why we have been calling for a second special counsel for over a year. Now, this investigation is now reaching a new level, and we're told there will be new explosive developments unfolding in coming days. In a letter to the AG, Jeff Sessions, and Deputy AG Rod Rosenstein, well, Senator Grassley and Graham, they explain exactly why a second special counsel is in fact needed. These scandals directly implicate key members of the FBI and the Department of Justice. So it makes it impossible for those organizations to investigate themselves. Now, key sections of the Grassley-Graham criminal referral against the fake news dossier author, Christopher Steele, now tonight they are unredacted. And Grassley and Graham rightly are asking the DOJ to investigate Christopher Steele for lying to the FBI about his contacts with the media. Remember, Steele was shopping the fake news dossier around to everybody in the mainstream media, all these outlets like the New York Times, Washington Post, Yahoo News, fake news, CNN. Oh, and by the way, Steele is a foreign actor in bed with phony Russian sources. Even he didn't believe what he printed in the dossier. I thought that was supposed to be bad for America, criminal even, that in fact Steele would be working as a non-foreign actor with Russians to influence an American election. Did he ever register with the U.S. government? Now, also tonight, brand new news. Fox News reporting disgraced former FBI Director Andrew McCabe. This is huge. Is now begging top DOJ officials. Remember, he's a former deputy director of the FBI, that he not be fired because starting Sunday, he would begin to get his lucrative government pension. He's set to retire on Sunday, but he's likely going to be fired tomorrow. Now, the fact that McCabe is even at this point is so significant, and it means something, what? McCabe did something really, really wrong. You don't get fired over nothing, especially being the deputy FBI director working at the Bureau for over 20 years. And sources are telling us tonight that McCabe could face multiple criminal charges. Remember, McCabe, he was put on leave after the current FBI director, Christopher Wray. Remember, he found out what we will find out soon, what is being exposed in the upcoming Inspector General's report. And for the IG report, don't think that what McCabe did happened in a vacuum. Remember, McCabe didn't do this alone. And the IG report is supposed to cover, look at the list, the corrupt Clinton email investigation, Hillary having that unsecure server that was stored in the mom and pop shop bathroom closet where she deleted 33,000 subpoenaed emails, and her aides were smashing devices and acid washing and bleach pit. And then, of course, there's the Clinton-Lynch tarmac meeting with Bill Clinton. That's only a small fraction of what the Inspector General is now investigating. And then you have what I call the exoneration before investigation. You had Comey and Strzok and Page and other top FBI officials. They put the fix in. They concluded their investigation long before they even interviewed Hillary Clinton and 17 other key witnesses, which, by the way, goes against what James Comey said under oath when he claimed in front of Congress he didn't reach a conclusion on the Clinton email investigation until after interviewing Hillary. But that's not true. We know it's not true. So you have Hillary, she rigged her primary, she has her friends at the FBI, then put the fix in as it relates to crimes she committed, then she tries to influence the general election, paying over $12 million to a guy outside of America for Russian government lies and propaganda, all to lie to the American people. By the way, Robert Mueller, How about investigating real crimes tonight? And by the way, since we found out that those Clinton bought and paid for lies, which the FBI, they never verified, they never corroborated, well, then they took those lies to the FISA judge, and they used the lies and Russian propaganda to get a warrant to spy on a member of the Trump campaign. Well, that then, of course, gave them access to Trump campaign communications. Now, remember, the FBI's own protocols and FISA laws, it says that information needs to be verified and corroborated independently before it ever goes to a FISA court judge. That never happened, and it didn't happen once. FISA judges were lied to on 4 separate occasions. This is beyond a massive scandal, and I know the media is ignorant, lazy, and overpaid. But it's why Jeff Sessions is now looking to the Inspector General and now looking into these severe FISA abuses. But remember, here's the problem. The IG, Inspector General Horowitz, he has no prosecutorial powers. Hence, you need the second special counsel, like yesterday. It all needs to be investigated. People need to be exposed. Crimes were committed at the highest levels, and people, in the end, need to go to jail. The full story needs to come out. You deserve that and so much more from the people that are supposed to serve you in government. All right, also tonight, we have breaking news on President Trump and Russia. Now, it doesn't exactly fit in the narrative that Democrats and members of the Destroy Trump media have been pushing for months. Now, the Trump administration, they're cracking down on Russia in a massive way. Now, this morning, the Treasury Department announced new targeted sanctions against dozens of Russian entities and individuals involved in cyber attacks and election interference in the 2016 presidential election. And that's not all. President Trump, he's joining leaders from Germany and France and the United Kingdom in a joint statement condemning the Putin regime for brutally poisoning a former double agent and his daughter last week in England. Now, the pair remain alive, but they're in critical condition in a British hospital. Now, this all comes months after President Trump introduced his administration's first sanctions against Russia, meant to punish the Putin regime for its actions in Crimea. Well, that happened during the Obama years, as well as other human rights violations. Now, of course, this tough policy, it does stand in stark contrast to what happened under the Obama administration and when Hillary was Secretary of State. Remember that lame Russian reset button that she handed over to her counterpart? And continuing with Obama's total inaction during Russia's hostile takeover of Crimea, despite warnings from world leaders, our own intelligence agency, and even Congressman Devin Nunes. Remember, Devin Nunes wrote this op-ed warning then-President Obama about the Kremlin's hostile actions in Eastern Europe and elections, and warned specifically about the 2016 elections. And the Obama administration, they also dropped the ball in the Middle East when Russia boosted the Assad regime in their fight against the Syrian rebels. Remember the red line? Assad crossed it, and nothing happened. He gassed his own people. Russia supported it. Obama stood by and did nothing. And the Obama administration wasn't any better on Russian election interference. According to experts, a brand new book, Michael Isikoff, former National Security Advisor Susan Rice, he issues a, quote, a stand-down order to officials developing an aggressive response to Putin's meddling. Now, remember, when President Obama told then-candidate Trump, do you remember this? Stop whining. You know, no serious person thinks that our elections could ever be influenced by hacking. Come on, stop being a whiner. Take a look.
There is no serious person out there who would suggest somehow that you could even rig America's elections, in part because they're so decentralized and the numbers of votes involved. There's no evidence that that has happened in the past, or that there are instances in which that will happen this time. And so I'd advise Mr. Trump to stop whining and go try to make his case to get votes.
So let's get this straight. There's Obama, weak on Russia's hostile takeover of Crimea, weak on Russia's support for Assad using gas on his own people, weak on Russia's election hacking, warned 2 years before the 2016 election, and the media is only focused on Trump's ties to Russia? Mr. Obama, where were you? Why didn't you act? I've said it before, I'll say it again. Journalism in this country is dead. It doesn't exist. We break more news here than all these so-called news people put together. Also breaking tonight, speaking of the fake news media, they're hard at work. desperately trying to stop stories about real Democratic scandals, the ones we're reporting, because it's going to boomerang back on them. For over a year, the deceitful, fake news media in this country has been flat out lying to you, the American people, day by day, hour by hour. And now the biased press, they're employing a brand new tactic. You got to pay attention to spread completely false information. Now, the New York Times is claiming to have a blockbuster story about special counsel Robert Mueller issuing a subpoena to the Trump Organization to turn over documents. Okay, this particular story is a definition of fake news. It's a smear to damage the Trump administration, and here's why. Take a look at this statement earlier today. Trump Organization. Since July of 2017, we have advised the public that the Trump Organization is fully cooperative with all investigations, including the special counsel, and are responding to all their requests. This is old news, and our assistance and cooperation with the various investigations remains the same today. Oh, old news recycled by pathetic liberal lapdog media so-called journalists. They have wasted 14 months beating the drum night after night, night after night, day after day, hour after hour about a conspiracy theory. None exists. No evidence exists. It's been a big lie. And the media has deliberately spread false information and propaganda, which is exactly what Putin and the Russians want. Isn't that what they wanted to do, sow discord in America? All the media seems to care about is damaging and destroying President Trump, delegitimizing him. And they're also trying to draw the president's attention away from the massive Democratic scandals and not let anybody else in the media focus on cases where we actually have real evidence that's incontrovertible, real facts, real evidence. And as for Robert Mueller's special counsel, this latest leak is not surprising. What Mueller's doing is deliberate. The special counsel, his team of Democratic donors, Hillary donors, Obama donors, DNC donors, they are selectively leaking daily to the media to keep President Trump off balance. Mueller doesn't care about the truth or evidence or facts because he's been on a witch hunt. Look at the team he's put together. And the leaks are obviously intentional because it happens every day. And if Mueller really cared about uncovering real crimes, real wrongdoing, Mueller, you'd be investigating them. You know, if Mueller's going to keep expanding his mandate, why doesn't he focus on the Clinton bought and paid for Russian dossier with Russian lies? Does Mueller not care that Hillary paid for this Russian propaganda and she did it to influence an election? Does Mueller not care that Christopher Steele is an unregistered foreign agent who hates President Trump? Does Mueller not care about the FBI lying to a FISA judge not once, twice, three times, but four times, using an unverified dossier as the bulk of the application to get a warrant from FISA judges to spy on a campaign associate so they have access to everything in that campaign? Does Mueller not care that this FISA warrant likely gave access to all of Trump campaign's communications during an election? I can go on all night. Does Robert Mueller, sir, do you really not care that Clinton fixed and had fixed for her that email investigation and we know crimes were committed? Or the unmasking scandal, a 350% increase in 1 year? Or the Uranium One scandal? You were the FBI director at the time. We had an FBI informant that had infiltrated Putin's criminal scheme to control America's uranium. Well, you have no problem going down every other rabbit hole, Mr. Mueller. Why don't you look into these scandals? This is why we need the second special counsel, someone that is going to lead from the outside this swamp. You can't have people involved in these scandals investigating themselves. That means Mueller, that means Comey, they have these friendships going on here. Rod Rosenstein, they're all BFF, old colleagues. You really think they're going to hold themselves and each other accountable? Of course, Attorney General Jeff Sessions, he created this special counsel witch hunt. Now he needs to fix it. You can't be confirmed the AG and then the next day recuse yourself. And by the way, cite the wrong law, as Greg Jarrett pointed out last night. We need the second independent prosecutor. Now, if Sessions knew he was going to recuse himself, he never should have accepted the job as Attorney General. Look at the chaos that as a result of all of this. Here's a key fact. Greg Jarrett pointed this out. This is where we cite. Sessions cited the wrong law as the justification for recusing himself. He's the Attorney General. So the burden of all of this, that is dragging this country down falls squarely on Jeff Sessions' shoulders. Tonight, Mr. Attorney General, do your job and fix the mess you created. And also tonight, another damning report about James Comey's incompetence and his highly questionable conduct while leading the FBI. Friend John Solomon reporting that the longtime head of the FBI Telecommunications Surveillance Unit is saying that he warned James Comey about how that particular spy program was dangerously ineffective in catching terrorists. Comey never tried to fix it. That's like Obama was warned about Russian collusion and influence on our elections and did nothing and laughed at the idea. Here's what the retired special agent told John Solomon. Take a look.
I believe that the program as it was ripe for potential abuses, regardless of how it's abused, but it could be. And frankly, I see what's been happening in the last year and a half, and that just proves the point that this program could be abused and that it would not be used for the purposes that it was intended for.